Good evening. More than 3 years after the Manila bus hostage tragedy, Hong Kong and the Philippines have settled their dispute over an apology and compensation for the victims and their families. But it's more of a compromise, with both sides choosing a face-saving way out, as the Philippine government has stopped short of saying sorry. ATV's Emily Sue reports.
With the administration maintaining a total information blackout since yesterday, everyone could only speculate about the comings and goings of vehicles at government headquarters this morning. Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada's city-level delegation was joined by Philippine President Benigno Aquino's right-hand man, Cabinet Secretary Jose Almendras, when they met Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying today. That set the stage for a resolution of the long-running dispute between the SAR and the Philippines over the Manila hostage tragedy of August 2010. 8 Hong Kong residents were killed when a sacked Filipino policeman took them hostage on their tour bus, and the siege ended in a bloodbath after a bungled rescue attempt by Manila police. Since then, Hong Kong has been pushing 4 demands: a formal government apology, compensation for the victims, punishment for those responsible, and safety guarantees for tourists. The chief executive finally broke the silence late this afternoon, announcing that the two sides had settled on a deal.
It has been over 3 years since the Manila hostage-taking incident. Yet, the sufferings of the victims and the families remain close to our hearts. With a final resolution of the incident, I sincerely hope that the deceased may rest in peace, and the injured and the families can move on with courage and strength.
As far as the apology is concerned, in the joint statement agreed on by the two sides, the Philippine government expresses its most sorrowful regret and profound sympathy, and extends its most sincere condolences for the pain and suffering of the victims and their families. It's still short of a direct and simple sorry, and similar to expressions of regret made in the past by the Philippine president, who has repeatedly refused to apologize on the grounds that his country is not to blame for the actions of one man. But the chief executive said it was good enough, citing an apology letter from the Philippine National Police Chief to the survivors and victims' families.
The Hong Kong side, and I would go as far as saying that includes myself, my colleagues, and also the victims and the families in the process, do believe that the Philippine side has been sincere in discussing with Hong Kong, and the sincerity has led to the agreement between the victims and the families and the Philippines government on this matter.
It's understood that the Philippines is offering about $20 million in compensation, but there's no official confirmation. It's been reported that the families of those who died will get $3 million each. Those who are severely injured will receive $1.5 million, and $500,000 each will go to the other survivors. The Philippine delegation has also provided an update of action taken against officials responsible for the bungled rescue attempt. Former Manila Police Chief Rodolfo Magidbe has since retired, but he was demoted last October, and this affects his retirement benefits, which are currently being withheld until his case is fully resolved. Superintendent Orlando Yebra, who was the chief negotiator, was also demoted last year, but he's appealing the decision. 2 other officers were also found to be negligent, but no one is facing criminal charges or being forced to resign. Among those who escaped punishment is a key official, Alfredo Lim, who was Manila's mayor at the time and criticized for having dinner when the crisis played out. As for tourist safety, more than 2,800 police officers have been trained under a program launched following the tragedy to create special teams to protect tourists. In return, Hong Kong is lifting its sanctions against the Philippines.
The resolution of the incident enables the normalization of the bilateral relations between Hong Kong and the Philippines. I therefore announce that the sanction against the Philippines is lifted immediately. The 14-day visa-free arrangement applicable to holders of diplomatic or official passports of the Republic of the Philippines for visiting Hong Kong is reinstated. At the same time, since the Philippine government has implemented a range of measures to guarantee tourist safety, I announce that the black outbound travel alert against the Philippines is lifted with effect from today.
Survivors and victims' families have accepted the compensation offer by the Philippines and agreed to move on, despite the lack of a proper apology. The Filipino delegation admitted Hong Kong's demands had not been fully met. ATV's Arthur Okeola reports.
It's taken 3.5 years, but the relatives and victims finally have some closure. Tse Chi Kin, brother of slain tour guide Masa Tse, said he hoped that after all this time, he and the other families involved can heal and move on. While he acknowledged that the Philippine government may have stopped short of a direct apology for the bungled hostage rescue operation, the survivors and relatives' families were willing to settle for the expression of most sorrowful regret. He revealed that the words sorry and apology were used by the Philippine delegation during their talks, and after 3.5 years of anguish, there was no point in dwelling on the details. Lawmaker James To, who has been helping the families, said the wording used by the Philippines was acceptable as an official apology. Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada also insisted that despite the official wording stopping short of an apology, the delegation was sincere in trying to resolve the matter.
Whatever I regret, but it's still an apology. Yes. It's an apology. However you describe it, our apology was accepted.
Estrada insisted the Philippine president should not have to apologize, as he was not responsible for what happened in the city or how Manila police handled the crisis.
It happened in Manila, and the mayor is the one responsible for what happened in his own territory. The mayor, the local government has the power and responsibility over the policemen and all the employees in the city under our local government code. The president has nothing to do with that.
Philippine Cabinet Secretary Jose Almendras, who represented the national government in the talks, admitted that his government had not really met the demand for a proper apology.
In my meeting with the families this afternoon, I explained to them why what they originally wanted was not possible. And I believe they understood the complexity, and that there's a technical complexity to that which was originally requested. But I think what we should celebrate is that they have accepted what has been done.
Almendras insisted that during negotiations between the two governments, the interests of the families were a top consideration. Arthur Okeola, ATV News.
Overseas, U.S. President Barack Obama has begun a week-long Asian tour on a controversial note, assuring Japan of his support in a territorial dispute with China. Obama had dinner at a sushi restaurant with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe after arriving in Tokyo this evening. Obama earlier promised that Washington will stick to a bilateral defense treaty and oppose any attempt to undermine Tokyo's control over the Diaoyu Islands. China is suspicious of his visit at a time when Sino-Japanese relations have hit a new low, with Abe's hawkish policies raising tensions. Teenage pop star Justin Bieber has found himself in the middle of the latest row between China and Japan by mistake and ignorance. The Canadian idol posted pictures online of himself visiting the Yasukuni War Shrine in Tokyo. That triggered instant condemnation by Chinese and South Korean internet users, who reminded him that the shrine is seen as a symbol of Japan's wartime past and is at the center of the latest row between Tokyo and Beijing. Bieber later removed the photos and apologized for causing offense. Investigators in South Korea have arrested 4 more crew members and raided the home of the owner of the ferry that sank a week ago. Divers have so far pulled out 156 bodies, but 146 people are still missing. ATV's Winner Wong reports.
Mourning continues in South Korea for those killed in the country's worst maritime disaster in 2 decades. Nowhere was the grief deeper than in the industrial town of Ansan near the capital, Seoul. The ferry, which sank last Wednesday, was carrying 476 people, including 339 children and teachers from a school in Ansan alone. A memorial altar has been set up to honor those killed when their ferry, the Sewol, sank while on a trip from the port of Incheon near Seoul to the southern holiday resorts of Jeju. With little hope of finding more survivors, the focus is now on recovering bodies trapped in the sunken hull. Divers combing the darkened corridors of the vessel say they have to use their hands to feel for corpses in their path. As a grim hunt continued today, prosecutors raided the home of a man whose company operated the Sewol. Investigators have been checking the firm's finances following the tragedy, amid reports that the owner once served a 4-year jail term for fraud. Questions are still being asked how a routine trip ended with a nation mourning. The answers lie with the captain and some crew members who have been arrested for abandoning ship after it began listing. They face a number of charges, including negligence, and have been castigated by President Park Geun-hye, who compared their unacceptable conduct to murder. Many also are demanding to know why the crew ordered passengers to stay put in their cabins, noting that the 174 survivors had ignored the instruction. Officials plan to lift the ferry to the surface using cranes, but they first need the consent of families whose loved ones remain trapped below the sea. Many of the grieving families are living in a makeshift shelter in the nearby port city of Jindo. Their compatriots have responded to the disaster by donating tons of vital supplies. But the outpouring of sympathy and solidarity is little relief to parents whose children lie deep beneath a watery grave. Winna Wong, ATV News.
Back in Hong Kong, Health Minister Ko Ing-man has played down speculation that Hong Kong may ease its policy banning mainland women from giving birth here. He also called for calm in the wake of a chickenpox vaccine shortage. There have been concerns that children may become vulnerable to chickenpox infection as the city faces a vaccine shortage. But before leaving for Beijing this morning, Health Secretary Ko Ing-man said the government is in touch with suppliers to ensure there will be adequate stocks. Ko said he understands parents are anxious about the problem, but he called for calm. He noted that Hong Kong is not alone in facing a shortage. Other countries have also been hit. The health chief said the authorities will kickstart the child vaccination program once there are enough stocks. Ko was also asked about the city's zero-delivery quota policy for mainland mothers, following reports that women from across the border with Hong Kong spouses may be allowed to give birth here from next year. The policy was introduced last year to ease overcrowding at maternity wards in Hong Kong hospitals. Ko said the hospital authority is reviewing its public services to see whether there's room to accept pregnant mothers married to Hong Kong residents. But he stressed that the government has the responsibility to ensure that local women get priority in public hospitals. When pressed about the same issue on his arrival in Beijing, Ko said the government hasn't yet received the assessment report from the hospital authority and warned against jumping to any conclusions. Ko was in the capital for the signing ceremony of a veterinary cooperation agreement between Hong Kong's Food and Health Bureau and the Ministry of Agriculture. The Journalists Association is warning that press freedom in Hong Kong is getting worse after a survey showed confidence in the media taking a hit. Here's Arthur Urquiola.
Hong Kong's first Press Freedom Index was released today, with the Journalists Association expressing concern about the results. The group, with the help of academics and consultants, interviewed 1,000 people and 420 journalists between December and February. The survey found that on a scale of 0 to 100, public confidence in the media stood at 49.4.
I would say that this is a slightly negative measure or negative perception.
Journalists were even more pessimistic than the public, with confidence in the media registering 42 on their index.
This I would call a definite negative evaluation of the press freedom situation in Hong Kong.
The survey organizers warned that the city's press freedom is at stake.
The news media reflects the social situation. We live in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is not going up. Hong Kong is not doing well. That press freedom is just a reflection of this situation.
The chairwoman of the Journalists Association, Sham-Yi Lang, said the index could have been even lower had the survey been conducted after a chopper attack on former Mingpao chief editor Kevin Lau and the dismissal of commercial radio talk show host Li Wei-ling. Sham urged the government to maintain a high degree of transparency to protect the city's status as an information hub. The association said it will conduct similar surveys on a regular basis to monitor press freedom in Hong Kong. Arthur Ricchiola, ATV News.
Constitutional Affairs Minister Raymond Tam says the DAB's political reform proposal is unlikely to win support in LegCo. DAB Chairman Tam Yu-chung denied consulting Beijing before unveiling the plan. Emily Siu reports.
The city's biggest pro-establishment party last night unveiled its political reform proposal, 10 days before the government ends its 5-month public consultation. Constitutional Affairs Minister Raymond Tam said although the DAB left it until yesterday to release its plan, it's better late than never.
We are still in the first stage of our public consultation, and we would welcome any proposal that may be able to survive 3 tests, the legal test, political test, as well as practical tests.
The DAB has suggested expanding the nomination committee from 1,200 to 1,600, and chief executive hopefuls must get the support of at least 1/10 of the committee to qualify for an internal ballot. Each committee member will have up to 4 votes, and the top 2 to 4 hopefuls who secure the backing of half of the committee will contest the 2017 polls, in which Hong Kong voters will for the first time choose their top leader. Tam said the DAB's proposal passes the legal and practical tests in that it's feasible and complies with the basic law. But he's not optimistic that the proposal will win the support of pan-democratic legislators, as even some Beijing loyalists see the DAB's nomination threshold as too high. The government needs the support of 47 lawmakers, that's 2/3 of LegCo, to secure approval for whatever political reform proposal it tables. Even if all 43 pro-establishment legislators vote in favor, the administration still has to sway 4 pan-democrats. DAB Chairman Tam Yu-chung refuted criticisms that the party is trying to block popular candidates critical of Beijing by setting a high threshold. If you can't even win support from half of the nomination committee, that means you're already opposed by many sectors in Hong Kong, Tam insisted. He said the threshold for civil nomination, championed by pan-democrats, is also very high because it's hard for a person with no political background to secure the backing of 1% of the city's 3.5 million registered voters. The DAB chief also dismissed allegations that he consulted Beijing before unveiling the proposal last night. Raymond Tam was asked today about other political reform proposals, including former Chief Secretary Anson Chan's suggestion to let voters elect part of the nomination committee, and a proposal by 18 scholars to allow the public to recommend chief executive candidates to the committee for approval. Tam stuck to the usual government line, saying he will not comment on specific proposals. But he stressed that no group so far has the confidence that it'll win LegCo's support, and therefore the priority is to reach a consensus and bridge the gap between opposing sides.
Finance news: shares in Hong Kong fell today on the back of a sell-off in telecom stocks. The Hang Seng Index lost 1% or 221 points to end the day at 22,509 on turnover of $57.1 billion. China Mobile closed 2.6% lower after its profit fell for the 3rd straight quarter. China Unicom was also hit, losing 3.1%. Let's take a look at markets overseas, starting in the US. The Dow Jones is down 24 points. In Europe, the London FTSE is down 7 points. The Frankfurt DAX is down 48 points. The Paris CAC is down 29 points. Overseas cross rates: the euro is 1.38, the pound is 1.67, it's 102.33 Japanese yen against the US dollar. The weather forecast for the next few days: cloudy with a few rain patches and some mist tomorrow. Temperatures range from 21 to 24 degrees. Sunny intervals on Friday with some mist patches in the morning and at night. More of the same on Saturday and cloudy with showers on Sunday. Here's a look at the weather around the world. That's all the news for now. Thanks for watching ATV. I'm Edna. Good night.
Coming up, Newsline. To produce the best show possible, dealing with less than ideal conditions is a must, considering being a mum, but it seems the dad doesn't think so.
Kenneth, do you remember that silly joke about me having your baby?
Imagining meeting the past me and the future me.
Oh no, let me introduce myself. I am future Jack, obviously.
Will me figure out the messy life? 30 Rock, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday night at 8:30. No matter where you are, you always want to go back to where it all started. Following their footsteps to the most fascinating destinations in China. Find out about the varied cultures and what it means to be a Guangdonger. Tracing origins around Guangdong, Thursday at 8. October 1962, 13 days of world powers confrontation.
There was panic, there's no two ways about it. People thought that this was a real thing.
One step away from nuclear war.
It's quite possible that tomorrow we will not be alive.
On the brink of overwhelming devastation, what brings the deadly foes back to the table? Memories of the century, DEFCON 2, Cuban Missile Crisis, Saturday night at 10.
Trees are dear to our hearts. We spend many moments under trees. Trees evoke happy memories and add color to our lives. But their growth is affected by the natural cycle and the environment. We have to take proper care of trees and deal with those that are dangerous, so that we can live together in harmony with trees. People, trees, harmony.
Death may be the end of life, but love remains immortal. Enduring despair and torture, only love never fades away. The grandest castle was building up while his love passed away. But as long as we live in each other's heart, even death can't keep us apart. All About documentary, designed by love. Sunday night at 10.
This program only reflects the personal views of the program hosts and/or the individual contributors.
This is Newsline. I am Michael Chagani. Tonight, delays and democracy. Now, with me are Mr. Frederick Fong. You're from the ADPL, a political party.
Yes.
And Alan Leung, leader of the Civic Party, right? Delays and democracy. Now, why do I mix the two up? First of all, there was this astounding news that the high-speed railway to Guangzhou has been delayed by 2 years. And then democracy, we're going to talk about that later on, is the trip to Shanghai where you went, but you didn't go, right? Okay, we'll start off with the high-speed railway. Now, Alan Leung, leader Civic Party, are you shocked? Even the Transport Secretary, Anthony Jones, says he was surprised to be told by the MTR Corporation that it's going to be delayed by 2 years. But he's the director of the board.
Well, I think that is totally unacceptable. In fact, if the audience remembers, a newspaper actually hinted this about
a year ago, right?
Well,
half a year ago.
Half a year ago, I think. And at that time, the government was simply not uttering a word about it. Albeit that in the Legislative Council, we did ask about that newspaper report. So to capitalize on this black rainstorm
warning, flooding the tunnel boring machine, right?
The excuse is so lame that I don't think even a primary school student would accept
it. I'm going to ask Frederick Fung of ADP, our political party. Are you going to accept that?
No, I won't. Actually, these days, you can see there are many projects being delayed. And we have discussed about it in the development panels. And some of them we are being rejected to give more money to the government. I think the government should alert that it's not only one case. There are many cases on table. And they should make clear about it. And especially Mr. Zhang, he is the secretary of and sit in the company. I think he should get all the information.
Who's this?
Mr. Zhang, Anthony Zhang.
Anthony Zhang, yeah.
He should get all the information. If he is not sitting in person, his assistant should inform him. They should not go to the last minute.
But how can it be that the government is the majority shareholder, which means you and I and the general public, we own the majority share of the MTR Corporation, that they can be kept in the dark? And then weeks after the rainstorm warning, the black rainstorm, that the government is told that there's going to be a 2-year delay. That's a very long delay.
Yeah. Well, in fact, according to this latest report in the news,